From HPAC Magazine, this is Business Disruptors. Hi there, once again, it's Doug Picklick. I'm the editor of HPAC Magazine, and welcome to Business Disruptors, a podcast where we speak with mechanical and plumbing contractors who are bringing something different to the plumbing, heating, and cooling industry in Canada. In this episode, I speak with Ben Levine of Levine Brothers Plumbing in Montreal. A family-owned business, this one's over 100 years old, and I speak with Ben about the company's history and the evolution of the business and how he's continuing to bring a new structure while staying true to the company's core values. Ben's passion for his family, his company, his community, and the trades are all revealed in this conversation. We also speak about his use of social media to promote the business while also sharing helpful tips and his thoughts on business and the trades. We also touch on the recent run of his beloved Montreal Canadiens. We'll get to my conversation with Ben Levine of Levine Brothers Plumbing right after this short break. This episode is brought to you by Wolseley Canada. You've got jobs to run and timelines to hit. Wolseley Canada makes that easier than ever with multi-brand product solutions for any plumbing or HVAC project, online ordering available around the clock, and clear lead times so there are no surprises on site. When you need expert support, over 2,500 experts are ready across 170 plus locations nationwide. Find your nearest branch or order online at wolseleyexpress.com. Wolseley Canada, your project, our priority. Hello and welcome to this edition of Business Disruptors. I'm Doug Picklick, editor of HPAC Magazine, and I'm here today with Ben Levine of Levine Brothers Plumbing in Montreal. All
yes.
Right? Okay.
Super
and
excited.
Are you in at an office at work? Are you in a home office? Where are you today?
Today, in my office
Okay.
at work. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I wanted to ask you this because I've seen you on social media a bit, and I know the atmosphere in the city of Montreal must be a little bit electric because we're recording this on Friday, May 29th, and tonight, unless I'm mistaken, is Game 5 of the Eastern Division Finals between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Canadiens of Montreal. The Habs are down 3-1. How are you holding up personally?
I did not expect the podcast to go there. I raw emotions are coming out. It's an exciting ride. It's so much fun. I'd say the coolest part is the city is electric. I mean, after the last game, it was a little bit more down, so to speak, and people were talking almost as if we've already lost. But when at 3-1, we're not out of it. We need to show up tonight. It's going to be fun, and I have to tell you on a personal level, my son's 12, and this is the first year that he's been really into hockey. He's watched since the Olympics. He has watched every Canadiens game. He's even recorded it. If he missed it, he would watch the YouTube 10-minute replays on it. So it's actually something that I haven't had playoff run with my son next to me, and no matter where each of us are planning to watch the game, it's like, but we're going to be together. So that part of it is super meaningful for me. Also, I'm a little bit of a realist. Maybe I'm not as much a diehard fan in that I see sports as a welcome distraction. It's entertainment, which is what it's supposed to be. And it's just distraction in the same way you would watch a movie or play video games. Since probably 89, which I'm 44 right now. So 1989, that cup run that we lost against the Flames and Lanny McDonald, and who remembers that? Anyway, but that was what illuminated me and got me into hockey. So
Okay.
the cup run of 2026 is what's getting my son. It's pretty awesome too.
I'd like to go back a little bit, even a little further. Let's talk a little bit of history. Levine Brothers Plumbing dates back over 100 years, and
Yeah,
I'm hoping maybe can you tell us just a little bit of history about the company? And I know on your website there's a great timeline. I
thank you.
thought that was really good, but maybe you can share some of the highlights and
Yeah.
your personal connection.
So my great grandfather Isaac Levine was a blacksmith. He made the metal rims around the wooden tires of cars. At the same time, his son Arthur was a construction plumber. Isaac lost his job when, technology made rubber tires better on cars. Um, that was the upgrade. That was the really the impetus. And then the two of them opened up the company together. And then my great grandmother, and in our city we have different pockets, but she really went in the neighborhood and started knocking on doors. And this is really like immigrant mentality, but it's door to door. She went door to door and said, my husband and son are plumbers now. They're now your plumbers, and I'll know if you call someone else. So it was that kind of that kind of push that really started it off. My grandfather was 17 years younger than his brother. So he was in the late 20s. He started when he was about 15 years old. He was delivering groceries. So the story that I've heard is he was delivering groceries, a 50-pound bag of potatoes on the back of the delivery bike, and he fell. And Arthur happened to see it. And he pulled up behind him. He put the bike in the truck, said, Jack, get in the truck. Where's the delivery? He delivered the potatoes, drove the bike to the grocery store, and he said, Jack just made his last delivery for you. From now on, he's working with me. And that was how the brothers started. And Levine Brothers in the late 20s was just brothers an older brother looking out for his younger brother. And then so they really started a partnership, and it was super interesting from personality that really complementary personalities. Then my dad graduated McGill Engineering in 1970. He joined right away, which my grandmother was not very happy with. She said,
Okay.
your dad got dirty and worked behind boilers, so you could have a better life than him. And he said, let me use my degree, and one day I will. It'll be easier. And then a year later, his brother graduated. His brother Neil, my uncle, graduated in 1971 with a BCom, Bachelor of Commerce.
Mhm.
And he took the summer off, and then he started at Levine Brothers till he found something better, is what he said to his mom. Don't worry, I'm only there till I find something better. Well, it turned out that it was his retirement many, many, many years later. Um, and like the two of them, with between the engineering and the business background, they really were able to bring the company to the next level. They made a lot of partnerships with, at the time, was Gas Metropolitan, which is now Energia. It's our natural gas supplier and governing body here. So my dad made those connections. My uncle became a plumbing expert for insurance companies, and that started a new division for us. There were companies that were bought out over the years that were things that my grandfather and great uncle never would have got into. Went from a like two, three, four trucks. It was just growing that way. Fast forward a little bit, 2003, my brother-in-law Jacob graduated electrical engineering, and he joined the company after the summer. A year later, I graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce in Economics, and I joined the company after the summer. So it really, I'm really appreciating and noticing like the mirror from generation to generation of the engineering with business partnership. Um,
Okay.
and that was, oh my goodness. So 2004 is when I joined. So 22 years ago. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just really getting started here. So that's brings you a little bit up to date. Um,
Okay. So
uh,
you've grown up in Montreal your whole life.
yeah,
Have you ever lived anywhere else?
no,
No.
no, it's something a little bit different, especially in the Montreal Jewish community. I'll tell you, is that 3 out of 4 of my grandparents were born in Montreal.
Wow. Okay.
And my grandmother that wasn't born in Montreal, she actually came in 1917, right after the Russian Revolution. So my family has been here for all generations of my family have been here for 3, 4 generations, and that's a little bit different because normally the immigration came after the Second World War, or there was a huge influx after the Hungarian Revolution. So that's where most of the Jewish community came in. Um, my family's been around for a while.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Deep roots. It was Concordia University, right? In Montreal?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and business school, as you said.
Yeah.
Did you ultimately think you would be running the plumbing business? Was that your goal out of business school?
So I'm going to rewind a little bit to really answer
Okay.
this question. In high school, grade 11 for us here is graduating high school. My career day was at a physio clinic. I went into CEGEP, which is like our junior college.
Yeah.
I actually went into health sciences with the mindset of becoming a physiotherapist. I like to help people, and I play sports and with reckless abandon most of the time, and I hurt myself regularly. So I'm like, hey, I could fix myself. I can understand myself better, but ultimately, I like to help people. Classes weren't for me. Those types of classes, sciences, there's a lot of memorizing, which is not the way I like to learn. It's not the way I am illuminated. And I actually took one Canadian business class and everything clicked. And it's like, this isn't learning, this is fun. This isn't schooling. This is learning. Like I enjoyed studying, and I did extra credit assignments when that is not who I was. And so it really just illuminated me. And then
Yeah.
so I decided to switch into commerce. When a part of that switch mindset was, okay, now I have the goal is to go into Levine Brothers. My dad never pressured me. It was not,
Mhm.
we have a third generation family business, you're the fourth. He said, if you want to come into the company, know it's there for you. However, you can't come in without a university degree. I don't want it to be an easy fallback, and I don't want you to coast. This is something, if you're going to come in, you could come in. I'm not forcing you to, but here's what we need. So that was the setup. So switching into commerce and business, and I majored in economics. So all of it from then on, the focus was what could I learn to bring to Levine Brothers. I was even working spring breaks, prolonged winter breaks. CJEP universities could go into mid-January or even end of January. So I'd be working during that time. When I came in, all of the people in the office and most of the plumbers already knew me.
Well, yeah. Did you actually grow up kind of in the business because your family was it was so ingrained? Like, were you on the tools? Like, so are you a Red Seal or a journey person?
Nicely put. I'm a journeyman plumber, heating technician. I'm also a master plumber and master heating technician. So I hold the master license for the company right now. When I first came into the office, it was I replaced the one in the service department who was on vacation. From there, I went to sweeping the warehouse and putting stock away. Then I was able to go on to construction job sites, boiler replacements, which is where I had so much fun. Um, then our person who was looking after the warehouse and purchasing and pricing, he had a heart attack. This is now about 4 months into he had a heart attack. All right, Ben, come into the office. All right, no problem. So rebuilt a lot of the shelving, reorganized some stuff. That's where I started building more relationships outside of the company. It's what got me really understanding that knowing and building relationships in the company is important, but outside with our suppliers and the manufacturers and doing research. And so I was talking with these guys to place orders regularly. I would started looking at the products that we carry, why we use it, why we don't use other things. It got me looking at things much differently. It got me on a great track on that side.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So I know looking through, I think it was through the timeline that the business has really grown through acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
Over time. And in fact, and if I'm mistaken, your current offices, is it in Lachine? And is that no?
Oh, we need to
Where are you?
update that. We moved about a year
Okay.
ago.
Okay, where are you?
We're now in Ville Saint Laurent, but realistically, we're center of the city. We're right on the Trans Canada, right on the
Okay.
Trans Canada corner of the Carry. For those who know just the major parts of Montreal, that's pretty much as central as you're going to get. Um,
Was 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 that did you buy the space or did you acquire a company and take over the space? How did that work?
we bought the building. There
Okay.
was my brother-in-law and I bought the building, and this way we were able to make sure that we had a little bit more control. We were renting before. I mean,
Okay.
the office before that we moved out of 10 years ago was a triplex that my grandfather and great uncle bought 71 years before. So we were in the same building, but it just wasn't, it was bric-a-brac, as we say in French. It was just like start on the ground floor and then we moved up and then we moved up and everything was just piecemeal. That's the word in English. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
But now the current offices we're in, we were able to plan the space. We're a lot more together as a team. It actually helped with silo working. I don't know if the expression in English is still the same, but like people were working in silos
Yeah.
because in Lachine we were in a much longer building. So the service and operations were on one side, the warehouse was all the way down there, and there was a divide. Now we're a lot more central together, working together.
Okay. Now, having grown through acquisitions,
Mm.
have you acquired since you've been kind of leading the company, or was that prior to you coming on?
There was one that we brought on, plumbery and chauffage, so plumbing and heating, Lachine. I was peripherally involved with the acquisition before with Degagne Plumbing, but more on the outside. I really was able from start to finish with Lachine Plumbing, and I learned a lot from that. I learned at one point we had a contract agreement, like an agreement to purchase, and she would send it from her lawyer to an addendum on this. I'd send it to my lawyer, and all of a sudden the lawyers were the ones talking together. I called her up. I said, "Could we have lunch?" She's like, "Sure." She's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I think we're talking about details to our lawyers, but I think we're missing a bigger picture where we're not connecting. I'd like to understand." So we sat down and I said, What's your holdbacks? Why are you, what's this? What's that? And honestly, we saved thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in lawyers' fees by having that lunch together.
Yeah.
And I learned from that. Um, Ultimately, the negotiations, I mean, was it Chris Voss never split the difference? But ultimately, you want to understand where the other side is coming from.
Yeah.
And once you understand what their true pain points are, and most of the time you don't fully understand, they won't fully disclose it. But once you understand where they're coming from and why, now you could tailor, what do you need? What did I need? What did she need? And then there's a whole bunch of wants in the middle. And
Hmm.
that's where the real negotiation, okay, now that I understand, here's what I need, here's what I understand you need. And it ended up being a much easier negotiation. That, I mean, it was signed within the week after.
Nice.
Mhm.
So, and how many years ago was that now?
About 8 years ago.
So, in
Yeah.
that time frame, the business isn't growing through acquisition, but is the business growing?
So the business is actually where we're from, maybe not from a number of trucks point of view,
Yeah.
but we're growing from an operational point of view. We're
Okay.
putting structure and process. Besides the fact that we had a blip of COVID in there,
Yes.
just a minor operations blip. Um,
Yeah.
Besides that, where it's coming to a standardizing. And I think that's something that has been missing, is that we were run by as a beautifully run small business. A lot of the decisions went through my dad, and people didn't take and weren't given and offered the autonomy to make a lot of choices and decisions on their own. They care. They've all cared, and that is an amazing place to start. But given the opportunity to be able to make decisions on their own and changes, and that's what we've been putting in place um, the past 2 years now. So that was it. It was a post-COVID purposeful decision that, with the move to our building here and to really standardize our operations so people could be making decisions in the best interest of the clients, the plumbers on the road, and ultimately, as long as we're working towards the same goal together, held within our value umbrella, as long as it's within our values, then we're good to go. And
Okay.
if things don't work out, then we evaluate after.
Yeah.
As opposed to beforehand, the people checked in for every decision, every discussion, every pop in, I'm just about to go to this place, what do you know, type conversations, and those doorpost conversations add up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so how many trucks on the road now? And how many people Levine Brothers
Uh,
Plumbing?
Levine Brothers as a whole, we're at 42, and between plumbers and apprentices, we have 25 guys on the road.
Okay.
Well, that number
And
doesn't add up as much as I'd like it to. I think we have about 27, 28 guys on the road, somewhere around there.
okay.
Yeah.
And the mix, your business mix between commercial and residential, do you
Yeah.
sway more on the commercial side?
So super interesting. So first of all, we do zero new construction. I'll start
Right.
there. This is something that people who are getting into business don't fully understand how we're avoiding it and why we choose to avoid it. If you want, we can get into it in a minute. Um, in terms of residential versus commercial, we used to be 20% residential, 80% commercial. And commercial for us is anything that's an investment property. So multi-unit residential, sixplex and up is considered commercial for us, because I'm looking at it from a decision-making process. The client on the other side is much different if you're choosing to change a toilet for a tenant compared to the one their wife uses in the middle of the night. Like, those are very different decision-making processes. So that's why we've brought multi-unit residential into the commercial side. Now, from a number of client point of view, we're at about 50-50. But from a revenue point of view, we're probably around about 70% commercial and 30% residential. We've brought up our residential side in the
Yeah.
past few years, um, which is really nice to see. We've put in different programs in place, things that we hadn't tried and worked on before, and we've seen some really nice success on that side.
And
So, in
it's
short,
plumbing and heating, right?
plumbing and
And heating,
hydronic water heating and
hydronic
natural
water
gas.
heating, not refrigeration, air conditioning,
Nope,
none of that. You've never
nope.
expanded into that. Why?
Ah, um, because I'm a plumber at heart. Why?
Yeah, no, maybe that's
Realistically speaking, it's I see enough opportunity for growth. I see enough opportunity for improvement from the revenue side, from the training side, from the plumbing and heating of what we currently do. It's is it. I'm not saying it's not something we're going to get into in the future. And I speak a lot. We have some great partnerships with a lot of different HVAC companies, residential and commercial, and great partnerships. Super happy with it for now.
yeah.
It's but I have conversations with them that, let's say on the residential side especially, it's there's more customer facing interactions on the plumbing side. When I'm going into somebody's bathroom and I'm unblocking their daughter's toilets and knowing what's going to be blocking their toilets, it's a little bit more personal side, a little bit more client, and a little bit more. You have to be a little bit better understanding what the client's going through than when you're just working in a outside backyard for an HVAC or a furnace room. Um, so we really focus on the client experience as a whole and the client interactions. It's the one-on-one conversations that are part of our differentiators.
Yeah. Okay. So you did mention the not doing new construction, and I mean I've talked to a number of people, and actually the last guy on our last podcast, James Blanchett out in Prince George, BC, he doesn't do new construction either. And I mean, you said we could talk about it, but he was pretty clear. The margins aren't there on new construction work. He said doing service work, you get paid, and usually soon after you do the work, and it's you can bill for what you're doing, which is
So
does that align with what you're thinking?
let me change the conversation on that as to
Okay.
our why. Because our main purpose is to help people take care of their homes, take care of their properties for the long term. Yes, there are ways to get margins on construction. However, the mindset is about selling a job. It's how could I sell this job? We're not looking to sell jobs. We're looking to build relationships to help people take care of their homes and properties. New construction, when I price out, so for us, when we really bring value is in a living building. If we're renovating a well, tenants are still there. One of the biggest jobs that we've done is we replaced all of the heating and air conditioning piping and units in a living building. So part of it is we didn't cut corners, and we gave the respect that we understand these are people's homes. But I priced out another job on construction where there was nobody living in the building, and I put cleanouts underneath sinks. Why? Because for me, when we come back, we do renovations as if we are the ones who are going to be serving these people for generations. So better job for us to serve them is to install cleanouts underneath the sinks. Well, tens of thousands of dollars in cleanouts, the contractor, the GC said, no, sorry, we won't do it. Huh. And it got me understanding it's base margins allowed by code and by plans. Do the plans spec out to have cleanouts under a kitchen sink? No, code doesn't either, but it's a better job. And that's where the mindset just doesn't align with who we are. The values on construction doesn't align with who we are. That's
Okay.
so yes, all the other part to it is the margins and the faster payments, and I don't need to take liens on buildings because I'm going to change someone's toilet or do a renovation and all of that. But at the same time, like it just doesn't align. And we do bigger renovations. Over time, there's a few buildings that we're finishing off shortly where we've renovated 80 bathrooms in a living building over time. So we
Hmm.
do it. It's just different mindsets as to why and how.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you've been in business over 100 years. I love that. And I remember we ran an article in HPAC and also our sister magazine PCC in
Yeah.
Quebec. It was after your 100th year, you launched your 100 Acts of Gratitude program. Can you
Cool. Yeah.
explain that? Can you explain that, what that was?
My pleasure. Thank you. So to celebrate our 100th anniversary, which was a couple of years ago, um, we decided to give back to those that helped us to get here over 100 years. And that was the community, our clients, and our team here. And when I spoke to people in the community, I told them that I'm not looking to sign 100 checks. I'm looking to perform acts. So there were what started off, why it happened was super interesting, and I would even say serendipitous, because we had an event booked, 100th anniversary event right by the Cirque du Soleil school in Montreal. They have a theater with an indoor outdoor terrace, a lounge, and we had a petting zoo because we were going to invite employees, families, kids and grandkids and retired and stakeholders. We had probably about 250 people on our list ready to go. And 8 weeks before, the city of Montreal appropriated the space. Yeah, just like that. And by the way, it was also Grand Prix weekend, but we had booked it 6 months before that to make sure that we had the space. That was the weekend we wanted to do it. So both of my daughters are autistic. And my older daughter came up with, why don't you give back? And so, with that mindset, with my wife getting involved, and we were talking about it here, that's where it came up with. How could we give back? Let's take the budget we had for the party and let's spread it out. We had a candy party here. I send flowers to the wives of our project managers, thanking them for sharing their husbands with us. Um, we had barbecues and food trucks, and my son and I washed trucks for them because it's their responsibilities to keep their trucks. But my son came into work, and him and I would wash the truck in the mornings. Um, for the client side, we gave away a water filter, and we gave away uh, toilets, and we had all kinds of different prizes that we gave away, hockey tickets and things like that. We even had a contest about the oldest bathroom, and people sent us pictures, and we ended up being able to donate the fixtures thanks to our suppliers who were in on us, and we were able to give them heavy discounts for renovations, and so it helped with that. And then the community side, we got in touch on Facebook. There's a group called Montrealers Helping Montrealers, and it's a beautiful place to be. And we got in touch with the administrators, and she put us in touch with a few different people. And one of them was a mom who had started cancer treatment a year before and she wasn't able to work. Turns out her kitchen had a leak and it was a slow leak. Insurance came and demoed the whole kitchen and then denied the claim. So, and she hadn't worked. They were a family of six and they were struggling to get by as it was because she wasn't working and they hadn't had a kitchen in 3 months by the time she got in touch with us. We were able to coordinate with our suppliers and we coordinated with other contractors who heard what we were doing and how could we get involved to help. And we helped to find cabinets and flooring and she did a lot of the work herself and we helped and donated the plumbing and helped fix some stuff up with Watchmen. Anyway, fast forward, I get a phone call from the administrator. I never gave her, but she called and said that she was doing dishes in her kitchen for the first time, crying. How grateful. Fast forward 3 months after that, I got a phone call directly from her saying that she started making pierogies out of her kitchen. And for the first time, she didn't need help with groceries to feed her family because she was making the pierogies in her kitchen.
Uh,
So that's just one out of the
yeah,
100. Like it's so
yeah.
I mean there was
Okay.
we were able to get for a single mom whose daughter was going blind. Moen has this really cool kitchen faucet that you could talk to about temperature and volume that you could put in. And we were able to get that for them and we installed it for them. We went into the oldest homeless shelter in Montreal, the old brewery mission, and we met with them and spoke with James, the executive director. What do you need? And within 2 weeks, none of the water fountains were working when we got there. And I noticed, I'm like, what's the one thing that you try to do here? He said, dignity. We try to give our residents back the dignity. I said, so if they're thirsty in the middle of the night, I assume that they have water bottles with them. He said, no, because they don't have room. They need to be really portable. I'm like, so they go to the bathroom and they take their cups. It's like, no, they're drinking straight from the faucet. I said, James, we need to bring some more dignity back. And thanks to one of our subcontractors that we work with, all five of the water fountains were working within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Small things to me.
Yeah.
Easy but big impacts. And that's where the 100 acts of gratitude came from and the results from it were amazing. The
Yeah.
results, there are things that we still are continuing on and things that we did before, just not as purposeful, not as structured. I mean, we still participate in golf tournaments and we have on the West Island of Montreal, there's the community hospital, the Lakeshore Hospital, and we're still partners for care with them. I think we're going on the fourth year now. Um, and it's beautiful things that continued on from it.
Yeah. Relationships that developed and continue to develop to this day.
That's
Very
it.
good. So now again, part of the reason I know who you are, okay, was is social media. I know you've got over like 2,000 followers on both Facebook and Instagram. And I think you started posting back like in 2019 at least, right?
Yeah, 20, I
But
think it
now
was. Yeah,
on Facebook, you post your thoughts from the throne. Okay.
yeah.
So how long have you been doing that? How would you describe what it is? And then why do you do it?
Beautiful. So starting off, why I started on social media is the same reason why everybody starts. Want more business, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I started posting. But I always did it just a little bit differently. It was when I started, I knew, and I still know you need to add value to people.
Quick tips.
Otherwise, quick tips. So, quick tips is Instagram. So, we started off with conversations that I was having on the phone one on one regularly, became topics for videos. And
Yeah.
now I could show people a drain in a kitchen sink and why you shouldn't put grease down it. And I could show how great putting a pot filler above a stove is, especially if you like making soups. And I could show the value of a hot water dispenser and a carburetor and chilled water. And there are so many other things that I can now talk about. Thoughts from the Throne really started when I went live the first time, which, by the way, super scary. Um, and the marketing team that I had brought in, the company that we had hired, it was about lead pipes in Montreal. It was pre-COVID that lead pipes was a huge, and lead in water was after the Health Canada lowered the acceptable amount from 10 parts per million to 5 parts per million. And I decided I would talk about it. Santé Quebec, Health Quebec came out, followed suit within 2 months. And then at the time, I mean, our premier talked about it, and the city of Montreal spoke about a grandiose plan, which, by the way, COVID hit and nobody talked about since. But anyway, I decided I wanted to talk about it. He's like, okay, so what you just explained to me, I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, 3, 2. I'm like, excuse me, 1. Puts my phone in my face with a live video, and I just talk. I talk about what I was feeling, how I interpreted what was going on, what people should know, what they shouldn't know, and it was just me talking and teaching. We some but and by the way, for those who want to start on live videos, the best thing for my psyche was one person watched it while I was live. Turns out, real estate agent who I played hockey with as a kid. So if I make a fool of myself, just this guy, one guy that I've made my fool of myself many times in front of, it really was able to tell me, like, okay, it's not that intimidating, and just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
A week later, I decided to do it as what was going on. So I developed, or Thoughts from the Throne wasn't just me, it was my wife is our marketing director, and I mean, first of all, she's the content creator, she's the editor, the director, the producer, the censor. um, and I'm just a pretty face, as she likes to say. But the idea came about is as a leader, as a president running a company, as a father, as a husband, as a community member, as a tradesperson, a plumber, as someone who is trying to encourage the next generation about the value of trades. I have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and she had no idea. She still doesn't understand how 500 people could watch me talk about what I'm thinking about. She's like, she barely has the patience to listen to me. But that's how Thoughts from the Throne started,
Okay.
was just my take on things that are going on. And I like to tie it to business lessons. I like to tie it to life lessons. I like to tie it to things that I learned, not just bad things that happened
Yeah.
or great things that happened, but really to be able to tie it in to give people the lesson that I learned from it, or where I'm coming from, so people can
Well, can I
understand a little
share?
bit better. Sure.
I just want to share one of your recent ones. One of your recent thoughts from the throne was on the subject of mental health. You
Oh,
brought up how May is Mental Health Awareness Month, um, and I was just wondering why was this important to you, and what is your message for the trades when it comes to this topic?
ha. So yeah, mental health it's a hard, first of all, male dominated industries as a whole, male mental health is so taboo. People don't talk about it. It's suck it up and walk it off mentality. We're supposed to be hard tradespeople, when in reality there are more people that are leaving the trades from burnout than ever before. There are people who are, it's what we do is not easy. Having mental toughness to get done what we do, that's where we need to go. On the other hand, what is really mental toughness? Sometimes it's asking for help. It's being strong. Like I talked about in that Thoughts from the Throne, I talk about the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse, the boy, the fox, the mole, and the horse, which is a beautiful book about mental health, mental awareness. And they talk about that asking for help is actually not, it's a show of strength because you admit that you are strong enough to get the help you need. And it's admitting, I liken it to the way that I have an accountant do my taxes for the company. I bring electricians in to do electrical work. People hire plumbers to do plumbing work. We are not experts in our own mental health, the same way we're not experts. Not everybody is experts in the plumbing systems of their own home. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there are experts out there who could help. And people don't who don't get the help that they need, well, I think maybe I'll bring up like this week what happened with Claude Lemieux. Claude Lemieux, former Montreal Canadian, who this past week was the pinnacle of his post-playing career, was carrying the torch into the Bell Center. 3 days later, he committed suicide. So people who aren't, and you never know what people are going through, but it's the strength enough to know that there is options out there and to ask for help. And within the trades, and like I said, machismo, male dominated, um, it begs and it needs to be talked about, because the more it's talked about, the more people are open to it. The more people are open to it, maybe somebody will see this and pick
Yeah.
up the phone and ask for help. All of the construction workers in Quebec are a member of the CCQ, which is, translates to English, the Construction Commission of Quebec. So
Okay.
that's the workers. And through that, we get, it's called medical construction, medic construction, medical insurance for the construction industry. There is a
Okay.
hotline phone number directly for tradespeople on the Medic website. There's one dedicated phone number for people who are in distress. So if people are watching are from Quebec, check out the CCQ Medic website. There's a phone number to get immediate help. That's one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
My issues go a little bit deeper, is that we actually are, yes, very concerned about people in crisis, but let's work to prevent people from getting there. And I think that's the
Sure.
more we, again, more we talk about it, less taboo it is, more people are willing to reach out before it becomes crisis in their life. And crisis could look and mean so many different things.
Okay. Well, a business, you run
Yeah,
a business. Business is all about the people, right? Your
yeah,
people.
yeah.
What kind of a people manager are you? How do you describe yourself as a, because it's dealing, human relations is a big part of running a business. I know it. So how are you at that job?
Um, it's part of what brings me the most fulfillment, to be honest with you, to be able to, these days I have scheduled one-to-ones with the managers, the plumbers, to really get them to understand why we do what we do, how we do it, from where is it coming from. And even we talk about, we hand out a policy. We come up with a policy. Now, the worst thing in the world is for someone to say, okay, this is our policy, I'll follow it. Then they go up to a client and they say, I'll give you straight out. is we have an old faucet policy. So it's faucets that are greater than 10 to 12 years. We recommend to replace it, not because we can't fix it, but because we have had so many instances behind that we take pictures of the parts, we send it to the suppliers who sends it to the manufacturers. We end up, so especially COVID time, it would take where it used to take 2 to 3 weeks, it would now take 2 to 3 months to get a repair part. It would come back and it might be the wrong part. There might have been an equivalence in there, the part was discontinued, or the faucet doesn't actually function anymore as it should because the body is. And how have we served the client better? So if a plumber goes in and says, I don't repair faucets because that's our policy, well then we come in and we look like we're stealing and we look like it's a cash grab. And that's not the reality. If somebody wants us to understand what's happened in the market and how things work, we can't guarantee your 25-year-old faucet that the body inside isn't eaten up. But the time it takes us to repair all of that and get the parts and come back, and there's a cost to that also. So it's more about raising awareness, educating the clients as to what the options are so they can make the choice that they want, as opposed to upsetting everybody when 3 months from now they would have said, oh, I wish you would have told me, I would have changed the faucet. It would have cost me less because, the initial service fee and the amount of time taken apart and putting back together. I wish someone would have told me before. Well, that's why we put that in. And let's talk about why. But if somebody walks in and says, sorry, our policy, then we're not serving anybody. So that's part of what I love to do, is teaching people why we do what we do. I have a plumber supervisor here. His job is to teach what? His job is to train our newer guys on the road and even give tips and tricks to the guys who have been on the road for 20 years. And there's always somebody who has one little trick to get you out of a situation. In débrouillard, as we say, someone who could find their way out of a hole.
Okay.
And so that's where I love to sit down and talk with people, teaching them why, so they could understand it and they could explain it. And now we're all better off because of that.
Okay. So as a people manager, you're an educator and keeping people aligned, growing their business. Okay.
Yeah.
I got two more questions for you.
All right.
And this goes back to the business. I know you mentioned really early on that you're adding more structure to the business.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, does that mean like on the business side, like have you implemented some off-the-shelf CRM system or something to customize or optimize your relationships with people, or what are you doing that's improving the business?
From right now, the structure is internal. Right now, that's what I mean by that is, it used to be that the same person would ask three different people the same question, or it would be, if three people are responsible, then nobody's really responsible, and then things would fall through the cracks. We've communicated, this is our process, this is the structure. So if it's at this stage, it's that person. That's who's responsible to help out. Once you know who's responsible for what, there's a clarity to it. Everybody feels more comfortable with what they're doing. Things don't get held on. And I use the analogy of how heavy is a bottle of water. Well, it's not that heavy. I could pick it up, but if you hold it out for a week, your arm's going to get tired. Same thing with a problem that you're not sure how to solve. And this is what a lot of people do as a natural instinct. If you're not 100% sure, but you think you should maybe be taking care of it, I'm just going to put it aside and I'm going to take care of everything else. And then all of a sudden, a week later, nothing's happened. we're not serving anybody better. So in terms of structure and that way, in terms of a CRM, we've put in an ERP internally. We haven't brought it out externally, but it really helps to know history. It helps to know what's been going on there. It helps us to move the operations on things forward. From a relation point of view, we go a little bit old school. And what we're working on now on the back end is taking that old school mindset of actually checking in, hey, how are things going with our major clients, and being able to set up priorities that way. It's we are a lot of calling up, sitting down with clients. So one of the things that I like to do with some of our bigger clients is I'll sit down with the owners, I'll sit down with the decision makers. How are things going? How could we do better? What are you liking? What are your roadblocks? And so that's not something you can necessarily put into a CRM. On the other hand, alerting me of certain ones that I should be talking to next, that's where we're working on right now. That's so it's really merging the old school with the new technology that's out there. I was talking with one of my dad's clients, I'm going to call them. It was someone who worked really closely with my dad, and I was at a networking event with them. And he said, "Tell me, what are you doing differently?" Well, I'm actively involved in networking groups. He's like, "Oh, that's different, except your dad used to go and talk to people at the Y, and he would talk to people at the community center, and he would." I'm like, "Huh." So we're really doing the same things, just I'm doing it a little bit more structured. It's in place like this, where he would just who he was.
Yeah, yeah.
He would word of mouth marketing. He always would, people would call him up to compliment. His line was, "Don't tell me, tell everybody."
Uh-huh.
And so we used to only do word of mouth marketing, where social media is the new word of mouth marketing. So it's interesting that I'm able to take so much, and by the way, I didn't realize this until I had this conversation about a month ago, that I'm taking so much of what he did and passed down, and I'm just putting a little more structure to it and maybe amplifying it a little bit more because he was able to talk to one or two people at a time where, like I said, my thoughts from the throne could get 500 views. On the other hand, I have a TikTok where I showed people how to plunge a toilet, and it got almost 300,000 views. And I'm like, I don't understand. And I had another Facebook video that which plunger to use. I didn't realize plunger was such a hot topic. Which plunger, I was in Home Depot, which plunger to use for what, that organically got 250,000. I think we're at 280,000 views on that video, where my dad would, and I used to have this conversation one on one. So
Yeah.
just from a technology, it's respecting what came before, but using what's new to be able to help that.
So tonight's a big game.
Yeah.
That Habs game, it's big. They're in Carolina. You mentioned, I mean, the whole city is still a bit electric. I'm sure it'll be
Yes.
something tonight, but it's been building, right? As the playoffs have been going on, that's how it works.
Yeah.
How has that had any effect on business, or just is everyone in a better mood? What happens
Yes.
when this happens when it takes over a city and you're part of it?
Okay. So we have some clients that are in the hospitality industry downtown. So yes, that's helped. Restaurants, hotels,
Yes.
more usage. They're happier, and they're happier calling us in for service because it's based on usage. So that's kind of cool. From a residential, from just everybody's in a better mood, and there is such an easy way to connect to people. One of the things as a service person walking into someone's home, you want to be able to build that connection. Now, you talk about the game, and even people who don't watch are emotionally invested. They're
Yeah.
proud to be a Montrealer these days. All right, I'm talking today. I don't want to talk about tomorrow. Hopefully not. But anyway, but it brings a natural connection amongst our city, and there's a lot of cultural divides, Anglophone, Francophone. There's a lot of tensions within our city. Um, but the Montreal Canadiens, we're all together. And that's,
Nice.
except that Bruins fan, but we don't really talk to him.
Ben, thank you so much for talking to me today. I hope you and your son uh, all the success
Thank
tonight.
you.
And that's it. And you know, we call this business disruptors. You know, about people who are kind of shaking things up in the Canadian plumbing, heating, and air conditioning industry. But I love what you're doing, and I'm so glad we could talk to you. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you. Thank you. And
Okay.
and keep up the good work. Amazing, amazing. And like I had said, I am super honored to have been included on this list. So really, I've been listening. I didn't see how I belong here, so I appreciate you bringing me in too.
All right. Well, thank you, and
Thank you.
we'll hope to see you again soon. Next time in Montreal, perhaps.
MC, looking forward.
Well, thank you again to Ben Levine for sharing his personal journey here with us at Business Disruptors. It's nice to hear about how he's strengthening the operations of this century-old legacy business by placing more responsibility and decision-making in the hands of the people who are doing the work. While at the same time, he's consistently reinforcing the core values of the company, which center on customer service. He's balancing those traditional values with some modern operational strategies. How is he a disruptor? He takes the time to listen, network, and use his voice as an advocate for his business, but also for the trades in general. I'm always open to hearing from you, the HVAC and plumbing community across Canada. Who's disrupting the business in your community? Perhaps it's you. Let me know. I can be reached at editor@hpacmag.com. I'd like to once again thank Wolseley Canada for supporting this edition of the Business Disruptors podcast. And remember, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can also watch and subscribe on our YouTube channel. The Business Disruptors podcast is an HPAC magazine production. And thank you once again to Jim Stubbington of Annex Business Media for his post-production engineering. And again, thank you to Peter Leonard for our theme music. I look forward to sharing more conversations in the next edition of Business Disruptors, an HPAC magazine production. That's all for today. Thanks.